Well, here we are a couple of days before Christmas 2010, and I wanted to take a minute to show everybody how I make blackfish cakes. Pretty simple, really good recipe. I'm going to put this stuff here together and show you what's going on. I start with some blackfish fillets that came out of the freezer, and what I'm going to do is put them over here in the boiling water in the frying pan, and I'm going to poach them. Just about enough water to cover them. It's not a big deal if I have to flip them over afterwards, but I'm going to let them sit in this hot water till they poach and turn nice and white all the way through. And I'm going to take these white potatoes here and I'm going to boil them up. And that's the beginning. I'll be back in a minute and show you what's going on. Okay, here we go. You can see the the blackfish. This is blackfish cakes I'm making. The blackfish is poached pretty well here. It's all nice and white all the way through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to strain it. I'm going to leave this water in the pan though, and I'm going to put these potato chunks in there to go ahead and boil right in the same water that I used for the fish. Okay, let's move on. So there's the tog, all poached, and it's going to sit here and drain for 10-15 minutes till I'm ready to go to the next step with it. And back over here at the stove are the chunks of potato that are going to boil inside of that same water that I poached the fish in until they're tender enough to mash up. Probably 4 medium-sized white potatoes, and the fish here was I would say two 4 to 5 pound blackfish, or a total of maybe 4 pounds, 5 pounds of fillets total. I don't measure really good with this stuff. I just kind of wing it, but you get the idea. Alrighty, there's our blackfish, all drained and in a big bowl here. And over here are the potatoes, which I threw in with a little butter. And what I'm going to do now is mash up these potatoes and start adding ingredients to the blackfish. So here we are back again. Keep breaking away here to do stuff. Here's the blackfish, and what I've done is I've broken it up and shredded it into nice tiny little meal-like pieces. Okay, all that fish fillet is in there, and what you're going to do is you want to mix basically the wet and the dry ingredients separately. So in with this fish is going to go a couple of sleeves of Ritz crackers, crushed up, 1 sleeve of saltines, a whole bunch of fresh chopped Italian parsley, flat leaf parsley, and then a variety of spices here. I got some black pepper, I got some blackened seasoning, a good bit of Old Bay, and some non-salt seasoning or salt-free seasoning, which is a mixture of a whole bunch of sort of southwestern spices. That's really good. So all that's going to go in, and I'm going to put the camera down and crush up the crackers and throw that in there, and I'm going to mix all that dry stuff together. And then what's going to happen, once it's together, I'm going to go back over to these mashed potatoes, which are cool now. By the way, the fish is all cooled. And that's going to be my binder. And I'm looking together between the dry and the wet to get something that forms a big ball that I can pull pieces off of and make a fish cake out of, okay? So if I do this process and I find out that it's way too wet, well, maybe I'll add a little bit of crackers or some breadcrumbs. If it's way too moist, if it's way too dry, I'll add either a little bit of mayo or maybe an egg to the potatoes as a binder, or to the whole mix. But I think I'm going to be pretty close with what I got here. So over here is the crushed up blackfish, the spices, the parsley. I'm going to add to that the crackers And then after that's done, I'm going to mix in the potatoes as a binder, and that's going to be the base for our fish cake, which, by the way, everything in there is basically cooked. Now you can take that stuff and go to the next step with it. So I'm going to get that mixed up and I'll show it to you again. Okay, here's a real quick picture of the dry ingredients all mixed. You can see the reason you mix the dry ingredients is so everything gets nice and distributed, and that's the way that looks. All the spices, big piece of cracker, fix that. All the spices, the parsley, the fish, and the next step now will be to add the potatoes and bind this all together. Okay, so all the mixing is done, and it came together quite nicely, as you can see, into one big doughy kind of ball. And from this, what I'll be able to do is pull a piece off and form it into a cake, any size or shape that I like, and I'll pan fry that in a little oil and butter, and that'll be the finished fish cake. Now, the nice thing about this is you could take this and push it down into a big flat square, stick it in a Ziploc and freeze it. It'll freeze just great. This is going to make, I'm going to guess, around 30 or so fish cakes for Christmas Eve. So in a minute I'll pull one off and throw it in the pan and give it a quick cook and show you what a finished one looks like. Alright, well, I took a piece off of this big mound here and shaped it into a nice fish cake. And put that fish cake right here and a little bit of Alivio on the stove, and I'm going to pan fry that till it's golden brown on both sides. So here's our finished product, a nice browned blackfish cake. And to kind of just make it perfect, I've made up a little bit of a wasabi cream sauce. Now just put a little of that on there, which is a nice spicy wasabi based cream with a little bit of a bite to it, and that's the deal. Ready to be eaten. I hope you got the drift and you give it a try.